Hey all, thanks for checking out Chicago Humanities Tapes, the audio arm of the Chicago Humanities Live Spring and Fall Festivals. Tickets just went on sale for all of our Fall 2023 events, so head to chicagohumanities.org to check out that full calendar and grab tickets to see your favorite speakers before it sells out. Today's episode features a first, 2 programs from the same speaker at different moments in history. We've been lucky to have rock and roll icon Patti Smith at our festival 3 times. In 2014, receiving the Chicago Tribune Literary Award. In 2019, in support of her book Year of the Monkey. And in 2022 with A Book of Days. Patti Smith is a walking, breathing time capsule of the New York 60s and 70s folk and punk scenes. I can't recommend the book Just Kids enough. Her seminal album Horses has been hailed as one of the top 100 albums of all time. And she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2007. In 2019, she was interviewed for Chicago Humanities by music critic Jessica Hopper, author of The First Collection of Criticism by a Living Female Rock Critic, which is a collection of essays and interviews that I loved so dearly. It's an awesome read. The first half of today's episode is this chat, filled with fascinating stories of roaming the country and lost loves and intentional creative solitude. But by the time she came back in 2022, the second half of today's episode, she had taken up photography and published a book of those photos from a time of less intentional solitude. When reviewing these programs back to back, I was struck by how surprisingly different the vibe was from 2019 to 2022. I say surprising because the articulate and intuitive wordsmith Patti Smith wasn't beat more down come 2022 like I'd expect, and perhaps like most of us were. Instead, she was filled with more vigor, more hunger to share her music and joy of life. Inviting her son Jackson on stage, her 2022 program is filled with reflections of the photographs of people and objects that are meaningful to her, and packed with live music and energy. First up, her 2019 program Year of the Monkey from the Chicago Humanities Fall Festival, interviewed by Jessica Hopper at the massive Granger Ballroom at Chicago's Symphony Center.
Hello, everybody. So happy to spend the morning with you in Chicago. And I got up 2 hours too early. I was so excited. So
thanks for joining us. Thanks. How has your writing changed or charged your relationship with power?
Well, I don't, I'm not sure I could answer that except to say that I have been writing since I was about 7 or 8 years old. It's the one consistent vocation that I've had my whole life. And as I've gotten better and developed my skills, it gives me a lot of innate confidence. I mean, I feel a lot more confidence about my writing. And when confidence is a powerful feeling. It allows you to maneuver, negotiate life better. But also, writing gives you a way, whether it's performing or talking to people, writing a little caption on my Instagram, anything. It's communication with people. And positive communication has its own empowering aspect. Mm-hmm. You can tell I'm just waking up, right? Even though I've been awake for hours, I haven't been talking.
Speaking of your Instagram and also in this book and M-Train, it seems like you have a very particular relationship with birthdays. People ask you to shout out their birthdays all the time, but also it seems that you're in a constant state of remembering and honoring people's birthdays. Why are birthdays so important to you?
Well, I mean, it's the day we come on Earth. I love my birthday. I was born in Chicago, December 30th, 1946. So it works that way too. When I come to Chicago, I feel very excited to be in the city, but I was born here. I had my first breath here. And, and my first thoughts here. So birthdays are very important. I have one little funny thing. When I was young, I loved Willem de Kooning, and I found out his birthday was April 24th. And when I was a teenager, I would send him birthday cards every year to his gallery, every year. And then sometime later in like 1971 or 72, I became friends with Bryce Marden. And Bryce Marden introduced me to Mr. de Kooning. We were in a bar in New York City. And it was April, and I said, "Oh, Mr. de Kooning, it was just your birthday. Happy birthday." And he said to me, "Was that you?"
In your books and your writing, you definitely talk about and write about, having and sometimes carrying these totems and talismans and bits of things to remember people and places. Do you have any of those sort of things related to Chicago? What are your totems of Chicago or talismans of this city?
Well, my totem of Chicago is myself, like I said. Well, I have my baby book. My mother made me a baby book. She wrote me a poem called Patti, and I still have it with our addresses, pictures of her on Kedzie Boulevard, where we lived in a rooming house. I have my baptismal certificate because I was baptized in Logan Square. And, but truthfully, I've always been welcomed in Chicago. And so my secret talisman is just that. I've always felt very well loved here. So that's my best talisman.
So you wrote this book. Let's talk about this book. So much of this book transpires in California and also in kind of a California of the mind. And I was wondering, what were the things that really helped, or what were the things that sort of informed your imagination of California before you actually saw it for yourself?
Well, actually, I'm a real East Coast girl, and I was raised on the East Coast after we left Chicago, and I didn't go to California till we toured horses, and I think I saw my first palm tree in Los Angeles, and had my first, went to my first Taco Bell, and but California to me was all cultural. First of all, the beat scene, the West Coast beat scene, Ray Bremser, the California poet, and then there was Art Pepper, I think, was a West Coast player. And so, the California beats, and then, of course, the great music that came out of San Francisco. To me, California is, it's the Grateful Dead, it's the Jefferson Airplane. So it's City Lights books, these type of things. But, that's my particular association. But in this book, because I was roaming about because of circumstances, I became more attuned with its other kind of landscape, with Joshua Tree, with the desert, with the old motels. And so that's sort of the California in my book.
Are dreams a refuge for you? Are they a place of communion?
Well, I've always been a big daydreamer. In fact, my report cards from first, second, and third grade, it would say every single teacher, it was almost like in a conspiracy. They'd say, Patti Lee is potentially intelligent, but she daydreams too much. Patti Lee looks out the window all the time. Patti Lee has something else on her mind. And yeah, it was always, my imagination was always very fertile. I always loved reading. I would write stories in my head. And, the whole class would be learning Dick and Jane, and I'd be writing like, a 19th century novel in my head. But, and so some of it is dreaming, some of it's imagination. And so I have waking dreams, sleeping dreams, daydreams. And so you're right, it's a big part of my sleeping and waking life.
It also seems like you're very willing to kind of let the spell of a dream spill out into life or spill out onto the page. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Your imagination is your friend. I spend a lot of time on my own, and I don't have any trouble. Like when I was little, I would talk to my toothbrush. I had my toothbrush served me. It took care of my teeth. And one day I was coming home from school. I came home from school, and my mother said, "Patricia, it's time for a new toothbrush because you've had the other one a long time." And I was horrified. Well, what's going to happen to the old toothbrush? Oh, I threw it away. I was like, oh, you threw it away? As my pal. I talk to it every morning. So I had to dig out the old toothbrush and hide it. In our old apartment, we had floorboards that were loose, and so I hid it in there with a few other strange objects. But also, in M-Train, the book before Year of the Monkey begins with a cowpoke I dreamed of, who was really Sam Shepard. And the cowpoke really spills out through the whole book, talking to me. In Year of the Monkey, I have some inanimate objects talking to me. But for me, it's not weird, I don't have a problem talking to inanimate objects. Sometimes they're very, very interesting, more interesting than people. Present company excluded. I don't know, but I've always had it, I've always been curious. I'd read books, and I always wanted to travel. I wanted to go to where they wrote about, or where the French Impressionists lived, or, where, Arthur Rimbaud wrote his poetry. I've always, and even fictional characters. Where did that fictional character live? I wanted to see the village of Pinocchio. And that's what I did when I got older. And for me, one of the most wonderful things about touring with a rock and roll band was that I got to see the world. And Finland, one of the first countries I went to. It's just, it's like I had a pilgrimage with my sister just to look at the rooming house where we stayed when we were babies, and we were toddlers, to look at the church that I had been baptized. So some of it is from my own self. But I like to visit the resting places. I did a huge trek to go visit Sylvia Plath's grave, because it's in a very obscure area of Yorkshire. And, I visited the home of the Brontes and where Coleridge wrote. And I find that, it's like just a wonderful part of life. I've recorded horses in Electric Lady because it was Jimi Hendrix's studio. And it gives everything give him a hand. It just magnifies everything. For me, it just makes, there's so much strife and terrible things in the world. I mean, anything that can make you happy, that can make you feel connected with the past, the future, with our cultural voice, with heaven, is wonderful. So, I'm an old pilgrim.
Has your relationship to being alone changed over time?
Yes, certainly. When I was really young, I liked being with my siblings, but I didn't like being around people a whole lot. I just liked to be with my books. Of course, when I was a teenager, like any teenager, I liked my friends, and then I wanted boys, and always wanted a boyfriend. And but after my husband passed away and my children grew, I found myself alone quite a bit. And then I found that I no longer really craved companionship. I was fine on my own. And I really don't get lonely, but I do have my own companions. Writing is my friend. This book was my friend. When I was done that book, I felt really sad. It was like the toothbrush. No, don't go. But I have good friends. I like my solitude, but I'm not a hermit. Like, my idea of solitude is going into a cafe, a quiet cafe, and sitting in a little corner and writing. So there's action, there's coffee, maybe there's music playing, but I still feel a little sense of aloneness. I'm not the kind of person that has to be in a room alone with, no one bothering me. I don't, it's not like that. It's more like a lack of responsibility. I'm just roaming around, doing my thing, and I can sit and write in a cafeteria with all kinds of stuff going on and the clanking of silverware, but I just have my little seat and my coffee, and I'm totally happy.
There's many things that are remarkable about your book, but one of the things that's most remarkable to me is that you don't seem particularly nostalgic, despite much of this work being like deep in the past. Do you think that's accurate?
Well, I could say I think nostalgia is somewhat painful. It's beautiful but painful, and I wouldn't have known that as how to describe nostalgia. I don't think I'm so nostalgic as that I just carry past, present, and future with me continuously. But I saw this, I really like Japanese anime, and I really like, Ghost in the Shell has various series, and in one of them, the major, she's a cyborg, and she's entering into this space, and she feels, she's a machine, but she feels she does have some bit of human soul, and she feels this strange feeling. She puts her hand on a doorknob and feels a shudder, and she's wondering what this strange feeling is. And then she goes into a place and she finds memory in this room, and she says, now I know what that strange feeling is. It's human nostalgia. And that really struck me, because instead of it being a nice thing, she felt the pain of it, because nostalgia, is somewhat painful, because often it's nostalgia for something, our childhood, perhaps a dead friend, a beautiful meadow that's not a meadow anymore. So I guess we all have nostalgia within us, but I try not to exercise it too much, because truthfully, I have a lot of things I could be sad about, and I prefer to somehow allow myself to feel a certain loss and all, but try to turn that over. I miss my husband, I miss my brother, I miss my parents, I miss my dog, but I try to turn that over and think, wow, I had such an awesome dog, such a great husband. My mother was, made the best French fries, and other things. Anyway, basically, I guess I'm trying to say I try to allow myself to feel happy in the face of all the strife in the world, all the things that we're facing as Americans, as human beings, our personal things, our global things, our political things, climate change, all of these things that are pressing upon us. We have to keep a little path of joy moving through it, or we would have a terrible life. So I try to hold on to that and, just move a little happily through life, as rough as it can be. Thanks.
What are your favorite works of friendship?
My favorite works of friendship?
Yeah, that other people have made.
That they did or we did together?
Either. Answer this how you will.
Choose. Truthfully, I've been very fortunate to have, I'm a worker, and my greatest friendships have really been work-centric. Robert Mapplethorpe and I used to work on things together, and then even when we did the cover of Horses, he always called it our picture. And when I look at it, I wrote this in the book, but when I look at the cover of Horses, I don't see myself. I see Robert and I see us, and And Sam Shepard and I wrote a play together, and I just gave him practical assistance on his last 2 books because at the last book he was unable to physically write. And I feel very proud to have assisted him. And I love his last book, Spy in the First Person, because it was his last work. He put everything that he had in this work. And it also appealed to me because, again, it was sort of nonfiction autobiography, a genre I really like. And Sandy Pearlman did beautiful. I love my friend Sandy Pearlman, who is in the book. He wrote a lot of the great songs for Blue Oyster Cult. He produced The Clash. And my favorite song of his is Astronomy, a Star, and a great Blue Oyster Cult song that he wrote. But I'm very lucky. I have, I have friends who are actors. Ray Fiennes is my friend, and he's great in everything. So I'm very lucky to have work-centric friends, and where we have a personal friendship, but a lot of our friendship is based on similar aesthetic, understanding each other's work, being able to talk freely about work, and that's a beautiful part of friendship for me.
How does photography, or how has photography informed your writing and your work of writing?
Well, I always loved photography. I loved it since I was very young. When I spent half my childhood in libraries, and I loved Lewis Carroll. And once I found, he was a photographer. He took beautiful photographs. And learning about his photographs, I learned about Julia Margaret Cameron's photographs. And I've always loved photography. And I've worked, of course, with many great photographers. But when I was a teenager, I read Nadja by Andre Breton. And what really interested me was not just the text, was all these obscure photographs within the text that were taken by Man Ray. And I love this genre of work, not even directly illustrated. It's not like drawings or something in fairy tale books. Just sometimes obscure pictures that somehow resonate the text. So when I did my first book, Babel, in '77, I did something similar. And I've pretty much had photographs in all of my books. But the nice thing about Year of the Monkey and M-Train, they're just my books. They're not, responsible to other people. They're just my life and my roamings around and my musings. So I just illustrated them the way I wanted with pictures that I take on the road. I mean, sometimes, it could be, an obscure Russian cafe or, a defunct hotel or some object that's important to the text.
Do you have a favorite photograph of yourself?
That's a dangerous question. I have favorites. It's hard for me to say a favorite. I like photographs where I look at, if I see a photograph that doesn't have to be flattering, but I feel like I know her. And it could be from any era. And a lot of the photographs I like are by my friend Judy Lynn, who took pictures of me in 68, 69, 70. She was one of the first photographers I worked with. And all our photographs we imagined were stills from French movies that weren't shot. And I like them very much. But there's a picture of me taken in Chicago, like 1947, 48. I'm standing with my little haircut, my little bob, I think, and just with my hands like this, crying. And I still look just like that. I mean, I can look at that picture and go, yeah, I'm still her, and I like that. I think probably one of my relatives took it, but it says like under it, all it says is Patricia, Chicago, 1949 or something, but I like that. It's an anonymous photograph of me crying in Chicago.
I think we might all have those.
And now, Patti Smith with guitar accompaniment from her son Jackson Smith at the Music Box Theater from the Chicago Humanities Fall Festival in 2022.
Hello, everybody. So, I am really happy to be here. I'm here with my son Jackson, and Jackson was born in Detroit, so not very far, not far away, and very grateful to be here. And tonight, of course, is going to be extremely professional. But of course, that's my definition of professionals, which is questionable at best. So Jack and I'll do a few songs for you, and so I'll be doing that and answering some of your questions. It's the sacred barrel. What's that thing that Johnny Carson did when he had like the big turban? Karnak. Yeah, this is the well, maybe you don't remember. But anyway, yeah, never mind. I love Johnny Carson.
I would sneak to the top of the stairs and watch Johnny Carson.
Jackson.
Because I remember you and Dad watching the last episode, and Dad like doing the ugly crying.
Yeah, he cried. Yeah, I actually was mad because I always wanted to be on the Johnny Carson show, and I think they were too afraid I'd curse or something, which I would never do that on TV. I mean, I know that I do occasionally utter some foul word here or there, but not on TV. So, because it's a family institution, and so I wrote a letter to them and said, "Please let me be on. I'll be really good. I'll wear a dress, and." But I never got on the Johnny Carson show, and I used to fantasize when I knew there was one more that I would sing the last song. And I even had a good story to tell him about Pavarotti because he liked opera. I knew the song, but they picked Bette Midler, so I was really mad. Not at Bette Midler, I was just mad. But anyway, Jack, if you would have told me, I would have let you come down the stairs and watch Johnny with us. I never knew that. Oh, that's so nice. Anyway, Jack and I'll do a few songs for you. And this little song is called Grateful, and we're both grateful to be here. And thank you all for coming tonight and postponing whatever your favorite Sunday night show is. But I just realized that was really stupid because people can tape stuff and everything. Okay, so once again, we're so grateful to be here, so grateful that you all came. I'm going to dedicate this to my great niece, Noelle Thompson, and I just met her today, and I'm so grateful for her. Another skin simply slips away. You can rise above it. It will shed easily. And
like a ship in a bottle, held up to the sun. Sails ain't going nowhere. You can count everyone until it crashes onto the earth, simply slips away. You can hide in the open, just disappear, and I will come out fine. I've learned it line by line, one common wire, one silver thread. All that you desire rolls on ahead. Ours is just a craving and a twist of the wrist. We'll undo the stopper with abrupt tenderness. Die, little sparrow, and awake, singing, and I will come out fine. I've learned it line by line, one common wire, one silver thread. All that you desire rolls on ahead. Grateful. Thank you. If any of you read M Train, I don't know, did you read that book? Remember the Cafeino that I went to every day, and then they closed it up and I was crying? In any event, I was so sad that they were closing this cafe that the owner gave me the table that I used to sit at. Aww. And on the table, there's a picture, a little Polaroid of me and Sam Shepard in the cafe, because Sam and I used to have coffee there a lot. The Persian necklace that Robert, that passed through my hands and Robert's hands back and forth to each other. He gave it to me on Valentine's Day in 1968, and we would give it back and forth to each other. So if he was having a hard time, I would give it to him. And then if I was having a hard time, he would give it to me. And when I was having Jackson, Robert sent it to me so I could have it, not because I was having a hard time, but because I had a big task. And then I kept it. And then when Robert became diagnosed with AIDS, we drove to New York to see him, and I gave it back to him. And after he died, it was given back to me. But it's really, I can look at that and see our whole friendship in that one little necklace. Miriam Mirzakhani. I love her. She was a genius mathematician, and I have a great fondness for mathematics. I'm not very good at mathematics. I mean, I'm not good at a lot of stuff like that. Like, I can't play chess. I'm not good at Scrabble. There's certain things I'm not good at, but I still love them. And she was an American-Iranian mathematician. She was also a mother. And she was the first Iranian and the first woman to win the Field Medal. And the Fields Medal is given to, it's the highest honor you can get as a mathematician. And it's an awesome medal. And she only lived to be 40. She died of cancer. And I just wanted to honor her. I think I honored her on National Women's Day. And she's a great inspiration. And yeah, and I think it's important to remember her. So. So I think it's time to take a little break and answer some questions. All right, let's see what you puppies have given me today. What artists of today do you find inspiring? Well, I like Adriana Grande. That girl can really sing. She's lovely. I think she's just, I like her. I think she has an exquisite voice. What music do you listen to? Well, I don't have any Adriana Grande records, but I really listen to the same old stuff, My Bloody Valentine and Jimi Hendrix and Coltrane. Although these days, sometimes when I can't sleep, I started doing it during the pandemic. I couldn't sleep at night. So I sometimes will put a movie soundtrack on. Like occasionally I'll do the Naked Lunch soundtrack because Ornette Coleman's on that. That's good. But lately, then for a while I was listening to Dune, the Dune soundtrack. And Ghost in the Shell, I listened to that for like 3 years straight. Not that it's, the one from the cartoon. No, it's not called cartoon. It's called anime, yeah. That music is genius. And lately I've been listening to the music from The Green Knight. I think the director, somebody, Lowry. Did you ever see that movie? It's awesome, right? It's so hard to explain to people how to get anything anymore. You used to be able to say, just go to Sam Goody's or go to, Tower Records and it'll be right there. But anyway, but I tend to listen to stuff I always listen to. I love listening. Every once in a while I'll go on the YouTube and I'll just start listening to stuff. Like the other day I was listening to Sparkle Horse and what else was I listening to? Oh, there's some really good videos on there. Like you can see Glenn Gould playing early Bo Diddley. And yeah, so I'm highly entertained. So. Okay, a good bunch of questions. And we'll come back to them. This was a favorite song of mine. I forget which album it's on, Another Side of... No, it's not on Another Side. It doesn't matter. It's on early Dylan album, and I used to play this song over and over. And it's one of those things, it was in the 60s. I was like a teenager listening to this song, and, here I am, going to be 76 years old and singing it on stage. It just shows if you stick around long enough, all kinds of shit happens. Down the streets the dogs are barking and the days are getting dark. As night starts a falling, the dogs lose their bark, and the silent night is shattered by the sounds inside my mind. Just one too many mornings and 1,000 miles behind. From the crossroads of my doorstep, my eyes start to fade, and I turn my head to the room where my love and I had laid. And I gaze down the streets, sidewalks, and the signs. Just one too many mornings and 1,000 miles behind. It's a restless, hungry feeling, don't do anyone no good. And everything I've been saying, you'd be saying just as good. You're right from your side, I'm right from mine. Just one too many mornings and 1,000 miles behind. Bob Dylan. Okay, let's see what we got. Do you have a creative routine? Actually, I do. And I like to get up really early, and I go to a cafe, a nearby cafe. One of them opens at 7 in the morning, and another one opens at 8. So I go to one of them, and I get my coffee and open up my notebook, and I write. And I write usually that early. The cafes are just, there's nobody there. So I'll write for a couple hours and then have a little breakfast and head home. And of course, I work all day in different forms, but that's my most favorite concentrated effort, you know, to sit for a couple hours and write. And if I'm having trouble writing, I just do it anyway. Then I'll just sit and think, or make some kind of list or daydream, but I try to keep that space free from invasion of other duties. And yeah, I mean, sometimes, I write any time of the day, but that's my special time that's just for myself. I have a little house, a little bungalow in Rockaway Beach, my little writer house, and I have a very unkempt yard, a lot of weeds and stuff. Things just grow there. Once there was an ear of corn growing in it. It's by the beach. I don't know why. It's, by the ocean. But so one day I came to work there, and there was this flower. I think it's probably a sunflower or a Mexican sunflower. But I was thrilled to find that because I didn't plan it. It just stopped by. My father was a very beautiful man, and he was a real humanist, and he loved birds. And he always, for years and years in South Jersey, in their house in the backyard, he would feed the birds, but he always did it by himself, and nobody really thought about it. He would be back there, say, "Where's Daddy?" "Oh, your father, he's out there feeding the birds," and didn't really think about it. So one day I came and visited from New York, and I said, "Where's Daddy?" And Mommy said, "He's out in the back." So I thought I would just say hello, and I opened the screen door, and my dad was way at the end of the yard, and his back was toward me, and he had his arms out like this, and he was covered with birds. The birds loved him so much, and it was like seeing St. Francis. He was completely covered with birds, and so I just quietly went back into the house, and he collected China birds, and he like I think the last year or two of his life, he joined a Bird of the Month club, and they would send him a bird of a China bird, and this was the last one that came. It came a few days after he died, and my mother said I could have it, and it really exemplifies him. It's like the dove of peace, because he was, he was a very pacifistic person. I mean, he had to fight in World War II. He fought the Japanese in World War II, but in his whole life, nothing broke his heart more than the fact that we dropped 2 atomic bombs on the civilians of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And he was a beautiful man, which gives me an idea to do another song. So. blood and ghost of thy ghost. We are the tears that fall from your eyes, word of your word and cry of your cry. We shall live again. We shall live again. Shake out the ghost dance. We shall live again. We shall live. We shall live again. We shall live. What is it, Father, that shakes through the night? What is it, Father, that moves through the light? What is it, Father? And tell me when, Father, will we live again? We shall live again. We shall live. We shall live again. We shall live. Shake out the ghost. Shake it out. Shake it out. Shake it out. Shake out the ghost dance. Thank you. It's funny, I'm not used to singing that song without a bunch of us doing it, and I was thinking, what happens in this section? And I remembered we have various people singing the chorus, so I felt a little naked there, but it's always nice to sing. But everyone, there's so many people that were helpful, and so my heart is thanking you all. And thank you to the Chicago Humanities. Well, you know what time it is? Do you know what time it is? It is time to get up. Come on, people, get up. All right, you don't have to if you don't want to. Yeah, if you want to get up, I just thought it would be good. It's good to stretch your legs and get up and yeah, okay. I was dreaming, am I dreaming? Well, of an aspect, bright and fair. Am I sleeping? It was broken, but my dream, it lingered near. In the form of shining valleys, oh, where the pure air clarified. And my senses, newly opened, are awakened into the cry that the people have the power to redeem the work of fools upon the meek. The gracious shower is decreed that people rule. Come on. You know the words. Make it so. People have the power. Vengeful aspects became suspect and bending low as if to hear. And the armies ceased advancing because the people had their ear. soldiers, well, they lay beneath the stars, exchanging visions, laying arms to waste in the dust, in the form of shining valleys where the pure air rarefied, and my senses newly opened, 'cause I awakened to the cry. People have the power. People have the power. People have the power. Where there were deserts, I saw fountains, and like cream, the waters rise, and we strolled there together, with none to laugh or criticize. Well, and the leopard and the lamb lay together, truly bound. Well, I was hoping, in my hoping, to recall what I had found. I was dreaming, in my dreaming, God knows, a pure view. As I surrender into my sleeping, I commit my dream to you. People have the power to dream, to vote, to strike, to love, the power to dream, to rule, to wrestle the world from fools. It's decreed, the people rule. Well, it's decreed, the people rule. Listen, I believe everything we dream can come to pass through our union. We can turn the world around. We can turn the earth's revolution. We have the power. People have the power. People have the power. People have the power. Don't forget it. Use your voice. Jackson Smith. Thank you, everybody.
That was Patti Smith, live in 2019 and 2022. Head to chicagohumanities.org for the show notes, where you'll find links to her books as well as Jessica Hopper, and the videos to the full conversations. Chicago Humanities Tapes is produced and hosted by me, Elisa Rosenthal. This episode was produced with assistance by Christina Strauss. Many thanks go out to the entire staff at Chicago Humanities, who are programming these fantastic events and making them sound wonderful. For more than 30 years, Chicago Humanities has created experiences through culture, creativity, and connection. Check out chicagohumanities.org for more information on becoming a member so you'll be the first to know about upcoming events and other insider perks. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a brand new episode for you, another first, with our first original interview with one of our upcoming speakers, just for you listeners of the podcast. But in the meantime, stay human.